It was a Monday morning like any other. The office hummed with the usual energy of people rushing to meet deadlines, phones ringing incessantly, and the occasional sound of keyboards clicking. I was sitting in my corner office, sipping my second cup of coffee, when I noticed Emily, one of my junior employees, sneaking into the office. She was late. Again. Emily had a reputation for being tardy. This wasn't the first time, and I had already warned her twice. As the manager of a growing company, I had to set an example. Punctuality was important, and everyone needed to pull their weight. I called her into my office. She entered, her head slightly bowed, avoiding eye contact. "Emily," I began sternly, "this is the third time this month you've been late. I've made it clear that punctuality is non-negotiable. I'm sorry, but I'll have to let you go." Her eyes widened in shock. For a moment, I thought she would argue, but she didn't. Instead, she nodded slowly, her lips trembling as she muttered, "I understand. Thank you for the opportunity." She left my office quietly, her shoulders slumped, and I returned to my work, feeling a twinge of guilt but brushing it aside. Rules were rules. That evening felt like any other as I watched Lily play in the yard, her laughter echoing through the air. She had always been full of energy, her little legs darting across the grass as she chased after her favorite red ball. I remember smiling, feeling grateful for such moments of pure joy. But then, everything changed in an instant. One moment, she was running, and the next, she stumbled. At first, I thought she had tripped, but when she didn't get back up, my heart dropped. Rushing to her side, I found her lying motionless, her skin unnaturally pale and her breathing shallow, as though each breath was a battle. "Lily? Lily, can you hear me?" I shook her gently, but she didn't respond. Panic surged through me, and my hands trembled as I scooped her up, holding her close as I ran to the car. My wife, who had heard my panicked shout, followed close behind, her face etched with fear. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Every red light seemed to mock our desperation. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios, and I kept glancing at Lily in the rearview mirror, silently pleading for her to open her eyes, to show any sign that she was okay. But she didn't. When we arrived at the emergency room, the staff acted swiftly. A nurse gently took Lily from my arms and placed her on a gurney, wheeling her away before I could even process what was happening. My wife and I were ushered into a waiting area, where we sat in agonized silence, clinging to each other. The sterile smell of disinfectant, the distant sounds of monitors beeping, and the muffled voices of doctors created an atmosphere of dread that weighed heavily on us. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every second was torturous, every moment filled with the gnawing fear of the unknown. I stared at the double doors through which Lily had disappeared, willing someone to come out and tell us she was going to be fine. My wife prayed quietly, her whispered words a desperate plea for our daughter's safety. Finally, the doors swung open, and a doctor approached us. His face was calm but serious, and I braced myself for the worst. "Mr. Ho and Mrs. Daniels," he began, his tone measured. "Your daughter has a rare blood condition. It's causing her body to weaken rapidly, and she's in critical need of a blood transfusion to stabilize her." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt my knees weaken, and I reached for the wall to steady myself. "A blood transfusion?" I echoed, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded. "Yes, but her blood type is extremely rare. Unfortunately, neither of you are a match, and our database doesn't have any donors currently available. We're doing everything we can to locate one, but time is critical." My wife let out a small, choked sob, and I pulled her into my arms, trying to be strong for her even as I felt my own strength crumbling. The helplessness was unbearable. There was nothing I could do to save my little girl, nothing but wait and hope that the hospital would find a match in time. As the doctor walked away, I sank into a chair, burying my face in my hands. My mind raced through memories of Lily, her first steps, her first words, the way she'd light up a room with her smile. The thought of losing her was unbearable. For the first time in years, I prayed with every fiber of my being. I prayed for a miracle, for someone, somewhere, to be the answer to our desperate plea. The morning light streamed weakly through the hospital windows as I sat by Lily's bedside, my hands clutching hers. She looked so small and fragile against the stark white sheets, her chest rising and falling, with the help of the machines. I hadn't slept all night. My mind had been a whirlwind of fear, regret, and desperate prayers. Then my phone buzzed, jolting me out of my haze. My heart raced as I answered, hoping against hope for good news. "This is Nurse Carla from the blood bank," the voice on the other end said. "We found a match." For a moment I couldn't speak. Relief washed over me so forcefully that it left me lightheaded. You did? That's incredible. Who is it? Can I thank them?" There was a pause, just long enough for doubt to creep back into my mind. "Her name is Emily Thomas," the nurse said. The name hit me like a lightning bolt. My heart sank even as my mind tried to make sense of it. Emily Thomas? Emily? My employee. No, my former employee. The same Emily I had fired just yesterday? It didn't seem possible. Why would she? I barely managed to stammer out a response. "Emily, are you sure?" "Yes," the nurse replied. "She's already here and has started the donation process. If you'd like to speak with her, she's in the donor room now." I didn't even hesitate. I shot out of my chair, barely registering my wife's startled expression as I mumbled something about going to check on the donor. My legs carried me swiftly down the sterile hallways, my mind racing with questions. Why would she do this? What kind of person would help someone who had treated them so poorly? When I pushed open the door to the donor room, there she was. Emily lay on a reclined chair, her arm extended, with a tube running from her vein to the blood collection bag. She looked up as I entered, her face calm but weary. Her eyes met mine, and for a second I saw a flicker of something, perhaps a mix of sadness and resolve. I stood frozen, my throat tightening. "Emily," I finally managed to say, my voice trembling. I don't know what to say. "Why would you do this? After After what happened yesterday?" She gave me a faint smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Lily's just a child," she said softly. "She doesn't deserve to suffer because of grown-up problems. When I heard about her condition, I couldn't stand by and do nothing. Besides, I'm the only match. How could I not?" Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. This young woman whom I had dismissed so callously was now saving my daughter's life. The enormity of her selflessness left me speechless. Tears welled up in my eyes as I struggled to respond. Emily, I don't even know how to thank you. I'm so sorry for how I treated you," I said, my voice cracking. "I didn't deserve this kindness from you, but Lily, she owes her life to you, and so do I." Emily shrugged lightly, her gaze fixed on the ceiling. "You don't have to thank me," she said. "I'm just doing what anyone should do in a situation like this." But she was wrong. Not just anyone would do what she was doing. I had learned that the hard way. Her quiet strength and grace left me humbled in a way I'd never experienced before. As the donation process continued, I sat nearby, watching her in silence. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the machines. My mind was a storm of emotions: gratitude, shame, and something else. A deep, aching regret for the way I had treated her. When the nurse finally removed the needle from Emily's arm, she turned to me and said, "It's done. The blood will be ready for Lily shortly." Emily sat up slowly, looking a bit pale but otherwise steady. As she stood to leave, I reached out instinctively, my voice barely above a whisper. "Emily, please, let me make this up to you." She shook her head gently, offering me another faint smile. "There's nothing to make up for. Just take care of Lily. That's all I ask." And with that, she walked out of the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the overwhelming realization of how much I had to learn about compassion, humility, and the true meaning of grace. Lily's surgery was a success. I'll never forget the moment the doctor stepped into the waiting room, pulling down his mask to reveal a reassuring smile. "She's stable," he said. "The surgery went perfectly. Lily is going to make a full recovery." The weight of those words brought me to my knees. Relief, gratitude, and sheer exhaustion washed over me all at once. My wife and I hugged each other tightly, tears streaming down our faces. The thought that our little girl was safe, alive, and smiling once more felt like a miracle made possible by Emily's selflessness. When I was finally allowed to see Lily, she looked so peaceful, her small frame curled under the covers. I held her hand and kissed her forehead, promising her silently that I would do everything in my power to be the father she deserved. But as I sat by her bedside, my mind couldn't stop drifting back to Emily. She hadn't just saved my daughter's life, she had shown me the kind of grace and humanity that I hadn't shown her. The guilt weighed heavily on me. I had judged her for being late, for reasons I never bothered to understand, and in my frustration I had dismissed her without a second thought. Yet she had responded with an act of kindness so profound that it left me humbled to my core. A week later, I decided I couldn't leave things as they were. I needed to talk to her, to tell her what her actions had meant to me and my family. I picked up the phone and dialed her number, my hands trembling slightly as I waited for her to answer. When she picked up, her voice was soft but steady. "Hello? Emily? It's Mark Daniels," I said, my voice catching slightly. I owe you more than an apology. I owe you my daughter's life. What you did for Lily, for us. I don't have the words to express how grateful I am." There was a brief pause before she replied, "I'm glad she's okay. That's all that matters." "No," I said firmly. "It matters that you know how much your actions meant to me. And it matters that I make things right. Please, Emily, I want you to come back to work. I know I failed you as a boss before, but I promise I'll do better this time. You deserve to work somewhere where you're valued." Another pause, longer this time. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but resolute. "Thank you, Mr. Daniels. That means a lot to me, really. But I've decided to move on. I think it's time for a fresh start." Her response stung, though I couldn't blame her. I had let her down, and while I wanted a chance to make amends, I understood that she needed to do what was best for herself. Emily deserved a workplace that valued her, not just for what she could do, but for who she was. "I understand," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I just want you to know that if you ever need anything at all, I'm here. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for everything." "Take care of Lily," she said softly, before the line went dead. I put the phone down and sat there for a long time, staring out the window. Her words lingered in my mind, filling me with a bittersweet mix of gratitude and regret. I had lost the chance to make things right with her, but I could still honor what she had done by becoming a better person. Emily's kindness left a mark on my soul. From that day forward, I promised myself I would be a better leader, a better father, and a better human being. I began to take the time to get to know my employees, to understand their lives and struggles beyond the workplace. No longer would I see them as just names on a schedule or numbers on a performance chart. They were people with stories, challenges, and triumphs that deserved to be heard and valued. I implemented changes at work: flexible schedules, open-door policies, and regular check-ins where employees could speak their minds without fear of judgment. I wanted to create an environment where no one would feel like they had to choose between their personal lives and their professional responsibilities. Emily's act of kindness didn't just save Lily, it saved me too. It taught me the importance of compassion and the power of second chances. It reminded me that true strength lies in grace, not authority, and that leadership is about uplifting others, not tearing them down. I never saw Emily again, but her impact on my life remains. Every time I look at Lily, healthy and smiling, I think of her. I think of how her selflessness gave my daughter a future. And every time I think of her, I'm reminded of the lessons she taught me: the importance of humility, understanding, and treating every person with the dignity they deserve. Emily may have moved on to a fresh start, but she left behind a legacy in my heart, one that continues to shape the way I live and lead. In the end, she was more than my daughter's savior. She was my teacher, showing me the kind of person I aspire to be every single day. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to watch this story. It means the world to us. If this touched your heart, inspired you, or made you think, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you know someone who could benefit from this story, don't hesitate to share it with them. Your support helps us create more meaningful content like this. Thank you, and see you in the next video.